Good evening. Welcome to our virtual teaching this evening. I am Bernard Dumas. I will be sitting here with these lovely people here today, and we are going to be talking about two-spirited roles, men's roles, and women's roles. But before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the Treaty 6 territory that we are on. The treaties that were signed with all our nations that we are here today on Mother Earth. I'd like to acknowledge the Cree, the Assiniboine, the Dene, the Inuit, and the Métis people that live off this land, this Treaty 6 land that we are on. And with that, I'm going to present protocol to our elder Ed LaValle, and he is going to share some teachings with us. I'd like to also acknowledge the partnership between the Edmonton Federation, Community Leagues, and Bent Arrow Traditional Healing Society for the partnership that we have developed and to continue to foster, to work together, to help people. And it's not only our people that are here, and all the people, all nations, so that we can work together in beautiful harmony. And with that, I have print. And the tobacco. I'm often near this tobacco and this print for Edmonton Federation Community Leagues, for Bent Arrow Traditional Healing Society. We'd like to get a blessing so this partnership can work beautifully. And for the
very happy to take part in this beautiful ceremonial and for the teachings that we're going to be sharing together. I think it's going to be great for the all the people that are listening. It's going to be a real great event for this afternoon. I am very proud to take part in this ceremony. My name is Ed LaValle. I am an elder with the Edmonton Two-Spirit Society here in Edmonton, and of course we are here in Edmonton. It was called Amisquachiwasregan before the colonial period was established here in Edmonton. The Edmonton, of course, has a long history with Aboriginal people, and before Edmonton was Edmonton, because before the fur trade happened in the early history of Canada, Edmonton was awash with beaver homes all over the place, and if you go out to the park today, you'll see remnants of those beaver houses still existing out there. So that's why Edmonton was called Amisquachiwasregan, Beaver Hills House. Just so people know that fact, okay? Yes. But we're going to pray before we start our proceedings. And I'm going to do it both in Cree and English. Aha mamota mamete tagahiti nanwa kisigaw emi ayagon emi asik magani gant kindoim nanu taka beutap mi aka kawichi yakipsise o mama ka amabskut maka ayakon ma hewe mi asik akskete maktan so mi se chige aka notes ego danse no te totamak magay tuwinigan kistamina kiskuhansko kidoit nanuta kabiutame kabiuti aksis maganiganit tuwina mistumona kyo dai simna nak politika kawitik politik sume matis kekunek kyo dai mistumona kigomeka kakyo ay sino o mahasi matis kekunek mi dap dai mistumona nak igomya kakyo gigo kap masim kekunek mi dai mistumona nak igomina Kimama nos gomina dai mistumona. Our Creator, thank you for this beautiful day and the many blessings that you bestowed on us. We are deliberating today on the teachings of from our various groups up here that are good taking part as a as a teaching for all of humanity. But we ask that you come be with us during this process. We ask you too, Kikukan Squill, to be with us and for these proceedings. But before that, we pray for the well-being of all of our people here in Edmonton, all across the nation. We pray for their well-being. Also, we pray for the well-being of all living things on earth, and for Mother Earth especially. We pray for her well-being. We ask that you continue to be with us and protect us against this worldwide pandemic that is still raging all across the globe. We ask that you continue to be with us and protect us from that virus. Ego sanma. Hi.
Hi.
So I give thanks to Ed for saying the beautiful prayers and sharing his gift with us and taking care of each and one of us. Just share the Mother Earth song as we are here together, and to be able to share our gifts and our teachings with one another, to be able to pass that down. So just share the Mother Earth song.
Hi.
So, welcome everyone, all you beautiful people out there that are watching this. I would like to introduce our elder for this evening, Ed LaValle, and also Jeff Salafu. I got that right. And they're going to be sharing teachings on the two-spirited. How do you say it? It's not society.
Yeah.
Is it?
Society.
Two-spirited society. So with that, before I start though, I'd love to thank our elder Ed for the beautiful prayer that he shared with us, and also Crystal for the beautiful song that she shared with us, for all of us. And with that, Ed, take it away.
Right, okay, thank you very much. Yes, the Two Spirit Society has now been in existence here in Edmonton. Anyway, has been in existence since about 2002. Or actually, even before then, because there's a group of young men who wanted to start helping fellow Two-Spirit people. By the way, before we begin, I think Two-Spirit people are the same as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, intersex, and transgendered people. That's who Two-Spirit people are. The term itself was created from a dream that one Two-Spirit elder had back in about 1990. The movement, the Two-Spirit International Two-Spirit movement, had already started at about 1985, and they had yearly gatherings across North America. It started really after that movement in New York, when the Stonewall riots in New York. I think they started in 1969, and where the gays and lesbians were fighting for their freedom and fighting for their rights as human beings. And it all started from there. As that movement started in the States, it also was it affected our indigenous people in the United States, and that two men started the movement in the United States. In the San Francisco area, and it grew from there. They had yearly gatherings, and of course attracted to the Two-Spirit people from Canada, and as a result, they continued to meet alternately here in Canada and the United States. Year by year, as they met. In 1990, they met in Winnipeg, and that's where the term, the Two-Spirit term, was adopted after the assemblage there said that they would like to have a unique name for Indigenous people in Canada. They didn't. They said surely there would be better. There was a better name, instead of always saying all the terms for the gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and so forth. Surely there must be a term in Aboriginal movement in Canada and on Turtle Island. And yes, the woman that attended that event in 1990 told about her dream. It was a beautiful dream that Two-Spirit people came visit her and gave her the term, and she said that a Two-Spirit people, gay people in Aboriginal society, it's believed that you have the spirit of both the male and female in a person, and that's why you should adopt that name, Two-Spirit people. And so ever since then, that's how that term came about. But of course, we know that a lot of our Aboriginal nations across Turtle Island, they all didn't agree. That was they all had their own terms in their own languages. Yeah. For instance, in the Cree world, I must say, as Crees, we have different terms for in our language. One is Ayakwil, another is Anisotil, and there's others too. But we Crees say Ayakwil, which says that it's a term that says it's neither a man or a woman. But that's a term that we have, the Indigenous people in the United States and Canada have decided to use, and of course it has become adopted now on a worldwide basis. And yeah. But anyway, here in Alberta, in 2002, even before then, a group of Two-Spirit people here in Alberta got together and formed a society. It wasn't a society then, but it was a working group. And I guess they worked with the local Edmonton Gay Society, but eventually they developed their own. But in 2002, the group hosted the first international Two-Spirit gathering here in Edmonton. They got funding from the province and from the federal government, and they hosted that event at the Nakota Lodge on the Tutsina, the Morley Reserve in southern Alberta, and it went really well. But yeah, it was then that I, being well on my way to being an elder, I had been learning, being an elder in training, as it were, then. But they asked me to be their elder that year, and that's how I became an elder. But the history of Two-Spirit people in Turtle Island is very sad, because the Europeans that came over over to what they call the New World. Of course, it was Turtle Island with us, but we had our Two-Spirit people were highly regarded in each of our different nations. At that time, we had a special role in our different societies. We were a shaman. Shamans took part in all kinds of different ceremonies. We led in the ceremonies. We acted as the spiritual helpers in all of our different nations. So we had a very important role in roles back then. But because of Christianity, that was the early part of human European contact, and as Aboriginals was not a very pleasant one in terms of Two-Spirit people. Of course, we know that Christianity does not accept homosexuality as it is taught from their black book, their Bible, and but we're very fortunate nowadays that it is slowly being accepted in society. But anyway, we since the 2002, when I became involved, it's almost 20 years that we have really been going on strong here in Edmonton, Alberta. We have been meeting and getting teachings from elders, and especially elders from Homeema, Saddle Lake, a number of other places. And the elders still remain that know about Two-Spirit people and their roles. And they have been teaching us how to conduct ceremonies and but it has been a really rewarding experience because we have indeed been learning what we used to do, and we're teaching our society right now as teaching these people that I'll have an elder, one of our leaders here of our present society, Jeff. I want him to tell you a little bit about what we do today.
Yeah, I can totally do that. And I got a drink here for you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Ed. Yeah, my name is Jeffrey Shalafu. I use they, them, or he, him pronouns. Thanks, Ed. I sit as the executive director of the Edmonton Two-Spirit Society, and often sitting in circle with Ed as a guide, and Ed really has been an elder for Two Spirits here in Amiskwacy, Waskahigan, since those early years. He's 1990, and that's how long ago? 31 years now? 30, it's been a while. We're moving this year into our 34th International Two-Spirit Gathering, which will be held here in Edmonton. So the Edmonton Two-Spirit Society is sort of the newest form of Two-Spirits gathering or organization, or in Edmonton in its current form. We sort of we're past the torch from Dr. James Makokis and Ryan Buffalo, and as we know, James Makokis is very busy in his medical practice, sort of called in Two-Spirit kin like Boyd Whiskey Jack to carry the torch and keep going. And the E2S, or Edmonton Two-Spirit Society, or E2S for short, incorporated in 2018. We sought the guidance and support and teachings of elders that are here, Elder Ed, Richard Jenkins, Leonard Saddleback, Joanne and Jerry Saddleback, and others, many others, Naya Sakabo, and just sort of kept going. And it's been 3 years, just over 3 years. E2S has been in its current form, and interesting what we did was, when reincorporating, we used the bylaws. I say this, I don't know what this really means. This means the Western aspect of organizing the bylaws. We used the old ones from the Two-Spirit Circle Society of Edmonton, and all we did was cross the names out, the title, and restart from there. And we really did, we're guided by the work that folks like Ed and Warren Winnipeg and others within Edmonton did to keep this going. So a bit about myself. I'm a Two-Spirit social worker, sitting as the executive director of E2S as the first ever staff in all of the Two-Spirit organization of within Edmonton, or Miskwitsi Waskahaigan. Edmonton's just a little bit shorter. And we have more staff, and we have people now with the capacity to provide supports to our Two-Spirit community, to create connections to other Two-Spirits, or Indigiqueer is another term, or LGBTQ Indigenous folks. So Ed shared a bit about, that identity as Two-Spirit and where that came about in Dream and brought to the gathering in 1990 in Winnipeg. That term Two-Spirit was really to, at that point, to bring together all the different languages and identities and ways of describing sexual and gender diversity within all of our different nations. There needed to be something distinct within the Western way of identifying, not as LGBTQ, but Two-Spirit. And it goes further into Cree, like there are eight Cree gender teachings. We're able to find those teachings with our elders that we have now, and some of those have been lost as well, some of those teachings. So the way we sort of describe Two-Spirit now is that we transcend that boundaries of the binary of male and female. We move beyond that identity or using those labels to thereby build a power and difference, or differentiate roles and responsibility and power. Thereby we see patriarchy, and we see inequality in gender now, and gender-based violence and all of that. So what Two-Spirits do is really transcend that boundaries of the binary male and female, restoring that gender fluidity amongst our people, able to cross and walk the camp, and to join circles and conversations, to be able to bridge conversations, or be in between people, in between those conversations. And Ed shared about Two-Spirits holding revered roles, shaman, healers, medicine folks, and what we see now in some of those revered positions or roles are being caregivers, being kinship care, social workers like myself, right? I struggled most of my life not knowing about these teachings and understanding my identity, and that directly correlated to all of my struggles with substance use, with the way that I was living my journey. And when I finally embraced that, and I started to learn more, and I met Boyd and met so many wonderful Two-Spirits all across Turtle Island, and now I get to meet more, because I have the privilege of coordinating and sort of leading this next international gathering coming up this summer. So at the end of August, we're holding an on-the-land, in-person international Two-Spirit gathering, and we thank the federal government for some funding. It's a significant portion to support our community to come and gather on the land safely. We're seeing a lot of change with the pandemic. The numbers are going down. Things are opening up, and we feel honored, and we feel like a position that space is being held for us again. Because we often find that we're having those conversations with people, like difficult questions, and questions that aren't presented with tobacco and don't follow traditions. And this being both Pride Month and Indigenous History Month, the Edmonton Two-Spirit Society sits at that intersection, right? And by being connected to those teachings that I get as a Two-Spirit person, I am able to understand how our traditional ways are in the work that I do. Because I used to be a yes person. Yes, people are coming with requests, and yes, and no ways of learning intention, or is this a good way to do things? Are we doing things in the right way? Because through all my years of substance use, I wasn't doing things the right way. I wasn't honoring myself as a Two-Spirit person. I wasn't honoring my parents, my family. I wasn't honoring all the work that our elders and people did before. And since coming into my own Two-Spirit identity, I don't struggle with those addictions and being in and out of jails, and I get to be a dad now. I get to be a social worker, a counselor, a helper, a guide, and I just absolutely love it. In terms of the things that are going on in Edmonton now, lots of opportunities for our Two-Spirits right now, because there is an organization now. It's not a grassroots group anymore. It's not a Facebook group. Our last formation was Two-Spirit YEG on Facebook. That was our last group in Edmonton before we started E2S. And we've grown. Our membership has grown over 100 in Edmonton, Treaty 6 area. The number of people that are following and reaching out. They want to understand and know. Some people are really doing their part to learn about who we are as people. Those are our allies and non-Indigenous, but also within our queer community or LGBTQ community. They also want to hold that space in respect and honor, as we are the Indigenous peoples of these lands. So, yeah. I could talk forever, and Crystal just yawned over there.
I just want to add that, we are organizing. We have what's happening in throughout Alberta, for instance, a number of reserves, electricians on Siksika Reserve and also on the Blood Reserve. All the people there are really accepting, their people, Two-Spirit people, and they're letting them be who they are. That's happening on reserves all across Alberta here, and also across the country, even in Saskatchewan. They've sponsoring their own powwows, and even on one reserve they have a gay pride parade on the reserve. So their Two-Spirit people are being accepted now all across the country, and we really appreciate that. Therefore, it's getting to be more easy to organize, and people are starting to join our organization. We have in across the country, we have organizations mostly in urban centers across the country. Like here in Alberta, we have an organization here in Edmonton. In Saskatchewan, they have an organization now in Saskatoon, Prince Albert, and I think forming up in Regina, a real good organization in Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal, and in the Eastern group they're really organizing too. So we're really gradually helping our own people. That it's estimated that there are about 5 or it's as high as what 10% of the population. It may be two-spirit people. So we don't know for sure what their population is, but we know also that a lot of our young people still are being discriminated against. They have issues with being two-spirit, not being accepted, and discriminated against us. So we're helping them. You know that our suicide rate with our own two-spirit people is quite high because of the negative attitude towards homosexuality in the main society and so forth. But it's now getting more accepted all across the country. So our work is really people are becoming more enlightened. For instance, in our two-spirit movement, we had a god named Kiskwihansku. Did you know that?
Kiski Kanskoyo.
It's a god, a spirit that we used to pray to. He used to help us. It's a helping spirit, eh? And I didn't know about this spirit before, but they were being taught that, and from our elders that we use. So it's a real something. It's a real revelation as to what our roles are today. We're supposed to be helping our people in ceremonial aspects. We are supposed to help the people in writing our history, keeping our history, and so forth, and our culture as well, keeping the culture alive. That is one of our most important roles, and we're very happy to do that. I myself spent 5 years at the Indian Cultural College in Saskatchewan, teaching from elders, so that I was very fortunate to be able to do that. As I know quite a. I was taught. Oh yeah, and in while I was there, there was a society in amongst the Cree. It's called the Society of Two-Spirit. Well, they're not all two-spirited, but Wichaguha Nag, the two-spirit people are. Those Wichaguhanek perform at sun dances and powwows, mostly on the prairies. And I was told that by those elders in Saskatchewan, a lot of our two-spirit people belong to that society, Wichaguhanek, contraries. Two-spirit people, yeah. So that's about what is that? Oh yeah, I should tell you that we have formed a national organization. It's called the Two-Spirit in Motion Society, and we have a national board, and it's just about 2 years old. Yeah, but fortunately, the government of Canada, and that's the people of Canada. When we say the government, the people of Canada start to fund us, to help us. Maybe they feel that it's a part of reconciliation, to help us revisit and help us grow our culture, maintain our culture. It's really beautiful that this is happening. We're very happy. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ed, our elder Ed LaValle, and Jeffrey Salafu.
Yeah, good.
Thank you for the wonderful teachings with the Two-Spirited Society. I am Bernard Dumas. I come from the Treaty 8 territory, Little Red River Cree Nation. I too, a little bit about myself. In my healing journey, like Ed himself, he was talking about that library in Saskatoon, right?
Yeah.
Back at the turn of the century, I did my. I went to First Nations University of Canada, the Saskatoon campus, and those stories that you, some of the stories that you shared with the beat, while we were strapped to their backs, and watching our mothers work, and building that relationship within your encampment, your community. We always had celebrations of life. The first steps, when we first stood up, there would be a celebration. Walking out of the teepee, taking our first step into that world, there'd be where it stemmed from. The community was there that looked after one another. Nobody was left behind. Everybody was looked after, and everybody had certain roles that that the old people would see. So these young boys, as they're growing up into the world, the older people, the adults, would be studying them, seeing where their skills lied, so they can say, well, maybe this one is a good hunter, so this boy would be into the warrior society, to look after the camp, to go and hunt, to go and provide, to give that protection for the encampment. Others might have skills in making weapons, like arrowheads or spear points. Would have his first kill, regardless what it was. It might have been a rabbit, it might have been a chicken. There would be a feast within the encampment, and that signified an important role within that boy. It could be in a teen, maybe, but that followed him in life, and it was a proud feeling inside. The whole camp was proud that this young up-and-coming man can provide for his family in the future, but for the encampment, the survival of the encampment. A long time ago, we didn't have these light switches that we'd flick it on and have a deep freeze, and we'd store our meat there. We didn't have that. We didn't have our TV or internet. We lived off the land, Mother Earth, Turtle Island. So as the young boys would go out with the older adults, they were taught. The skills were handed down. So going out there, going hunting, we use landmarks. And to this day, I still use landmarks in the city here. I don't really use the street signs. Some of them I do, but I use landmarks. And that's what we learned. We go down to the river, and maybe that was the end of our territory. That was handed down to our people, to our boys that are going into men. They protected their territory. They were taught that, and that was for survival of the camp. They were taught when to pick certain medicines. These were handed down so they could heal. Because there were sicknesses back then, not as prevalent as today's society is, where there's so many different sicknesses. But we always had medicines. We always had herbs to cure our nation, in our society, we call those bad spirits, these sicknesses, because it is a spirit. So we had those medicines or those herbs, if you would like, to combat whatever sickness that was happening within the encampment. So these young boys, as they're growing up, they would go out. As they hit a certain age, they go out and go fast. They would leave the camp. They'd go out for 4 days to learn about their dreams. If some of them might be able to decipher dreams that we have, that might be their skill. Some of them might go out there in the land to learn about these herbs and medicines that would come to them through these dreams, handed down from the Creator, handed down from our grandfathers and our grandmothers that you just heard from our elder Ed spoke about. He spoke about some of them. Those significant ceremonies that our male men had to do, and also the woman. And I cannot talk about women's roles, because us men, we are not women. And I was told through elders that we'll never feel the pain that women go through. So I cannot talk about the women's roles. Getting back to the men's role, going to these ceremonies for the young males, to learn about the camp life.
Can we press pause for a couple moments?
Wait, just go. I should have had that. Should have had the teeth. Really bothered me. I'll be talking like. Nice. Give me the signal when you're ready. Good to go?
Yeah, good to go.
So I had the first kill, right? You can edit this part, right?
Yep.
Okay. I was saying a long time ago we didn't have no power, no electricity. So the young boys, they had to learn off the older the adults, the elders in the community, to know their surroundings when they go out, when they go hunting, when they go patrol their territory, to protect their camp. And as they're growing up, as I was saying, they would go on their fasting, to go on their I guess some would say a vision quest, but they go fasting for generations, that healing is taking place. But at that point in time, that role changed for us. Even here on this land that we're on, Musquatchie, Waskagan, Edmonton, when we had these forts come up from, what's the word can I use here? A lot of people say colonizers. When we met Europeans, that role changed when they started introducing, they took away that very important men's role. They put our children into residential school to get into schooling. That role, that powerful identity that we had changed. They put us into little land reserves. They took away our weapons. We had to have that reserve pass just to get off of the reserve. And it wasn't a whole bunch of us, it'd be like one or two. And there was a time frame attached to it. So if you're gone for like 2 days, that's all you were given. It's 2 days to go do whatever it was, maybe to trade with the neighboring, maybe a town or maybe another reserve to go trade and then to come back. Those roles that very important that identified a person, a male, the men, diminished. Then they brought in the alcohol. Which is very prevalent still in this day, and the drugs. There's a lot of our roles were lost, especially the men. We were protectors of the family. We were protectors of the community. And once you're put onto a little piece of land, that role was gone. They took your weapons away. They take your identity away. They tried to take our culture away. Very detrimental things happen to the males. But at the same time, we did hang on to a lot of those important roles, a lot of the ceremonies. We have our elders here present today. We have our sun dances. We still have a lot of our chicken dances, horse dances, sweat lodges. And we have our males that run those. We also have the females, the partnership. We got to have that balance. And we have Crystal will be talking about the woman's role here to bring that balance that we just talked about today with our elder Ed and also Jeffrey and Sharon. To have that balance. A lot of our men out there right now are, and Jeffrey shared a story earlier on, and including myself, of being lost, of not knowing who we were. Because of these things that I talked about, I know I skipped a bunch. We could sit here for days and talk about all these detrimental effects that happen to the men. But you know, we are still here. We are still learning our roles. A lot of us are doing like Jeffrey here are doing the best we can. And there's some gray areas that were lost because of what the churches, of what what the government took away from us or tried to take away from us, and the threats of jail. So that's a gray areas that we're talking about. Some of our ceremonies were not shared, I guess I'll put it that way. Whereas before it was always handed down, but now because of that threat, a lot of the people were protecting others, so they didn't really share and pass it on. But now, a lot of the elders out there, and then all these nations, right? They all have different teachings, but it's all the same. It all comes from our Creator, and that's what we got to give our thanks to each and every day. We still look after our families as best as we can with what we know. We still help one another. I've seen a lot of male people that would offer cigarettes, they'd offer food to other people. And that's how it was long ago. Our camps, we help one another for the safety, for the survival of our encampment, of the people. So with that, I will leave it at that. I will introduce Crystal Arcan, and she will share the woman's role. So I thank you all for listening, and take it away, Crystal.
Hey, Nanaskawan, Bernard, and Elder Ed and Jeffrey. It's a great honor to be able to come into the ceremony. It's we've been blessed here today, sitting on the land here, and coming into the lodge here. It's very fitting with the teachings that were shared today, and honoring Gakyo, all of us. My name is Sagasteo Pisimpias Usqueo. And I share that my spirit name with you is, when I was given that name, my journey began. My given name is Crystal Arcan, and I want to acknowledge our partners. Being able to come this way, as I've learned to be able to listen to the stories that my brothers here have shared, my two-spirited, and sitting here on the land, it reminds me of all those teachings that start coming from my Gukum. She has now passed on, Mary, and I'm thinking of her, thinking of my mom, and all my sisters, as there's many women that I've sat with, and it's my spirit is what has guided me through my lifetime, and continue to learn, and looking forward to, if Creator allows me to be able to share what little I've come across or have experienced as a woman, as a mother, as a Gukum, and as a sister. Those things that have touched my spirit, and I've taken many of those teachings that have fit with me. So acknowledging who you are and where you come from, to honor your aunties, your sisters, and your Gukums, because that's where it begins. Always going back there's all those traditions that we've shared amongst each other, and some may not feel good, and that's okay. And that's where, as a woman, as a man, as two-spirited, it's what feels good for us, and that's that spirit. I'm going to share a little bit of this ages and stages through life, and that's how I began to understand, because I had to go back to those things and to be reminded of those teachings that my mom gave me. And sometimes that spirit awakens because of maybe the things that have happened or the things that I may have missed in my upbringing. And that's the beautiful thing about ceremony and our ways of living, is that Creator loves us and He puts individuals in our life to be able to support and nurture our spirit. So I remember at a young age sitting with my gookum, and she'd be out on the land and hauling wood. The old pump water, hauling water, and she's hanging her clothes on the line there. And I was only about maybe 4 years old. I could really clearly remember these stories. So my gookum used to talk to me about the water as she was doing her laundry, and she often sewed many times. And what she sewed was blankets or moss bags or moccasins. And she would share stories, and she would say, "My girl, this moss bag here, when you were born, it's a transformation as your mom gave birth to you. You're life givers. The women's are life givers." And teaching with the moss bag is when you take your first breath, you are given those gifts already. Creator blessed each and one of us, and as women, it's up to us to automatically put that baby on our chest, to hear our heartbeat and that transformation of nurturing, of love. And that's why we put our babies in that moss bag, so that they can feel the transformation from the womb into the moss bag. And in that moss bag, there's now contemporarily the hide that our men have hunted, and they bring home those tools that we can do to transform that, to make that moss bag. And that long cord that's on that moss bag is that your Creator already knows that your lifeline. And the knot at the end is your family. And when you wrap your baby in that moss bag, that's our lodge, the ribs. So I think of those things. Very young age, my gookum told me that, but it was years later that I was reminded of it. And I couldn't understand at that time as a little girl. But it's so clear now, because it's us as women. That's where that nurturing comes into. Our young little boys, older boys, our mushums, our little girls, young women, our notdogos, our old ladies. We're blessed with that. And to be able to see and to pray for them, for that good life. You know, I didn't understand that, and when I became a mother, I was lost in my addictions at that time. It wasn't until I was a gookum that those teachings came alive. And I was able to look at things differently, and it was those old ladies that sit in those corners, our two-spirited, our men, all of us, we need each other. And in those ceremonies, when our babies are born, now I know to be able to hand protocol, maybe to a sister, maybe to a grandmother, an auntie, to be able to help me, to be able to nurture that baby so that we can send blessings of that good life that my brothers have spoken about in their roles, and to be able to support them that way. So I encourage you to go back to those old ladies and those aunties to ask for that. And if you don't know the protocol, a little bit of tobacco is good. But if you can, other things. To be able to come into that ceremony and bless that child. And through that time, those 5 years are very crucial, because that's where we teach our children to listen, to love, to respect, to live honestly. Those are all those teepee teachings within your own family of those traditions and values that you want to be taught to that child. And then it comes later on, as young woman, we hit that rites of passage stage where we become young women. That's a very sacred time. Again, another transition from being a child to becoming a young woman. Again, doing protocol. Maybe with the same ones that you did at the beginning, or maybe some different ones. To be able to bring your daughter, as my brother shared to Bernard about, and offering that protocol to be able to teach our young women about how they carry themselves as women. We need to be able to respect ourselves and to love ourselves. Because all those things, those interferences I like to call, our struggles, our challenges, our peer influences start coming into play. And we get confusing. That's where those teenagers are hard to understand. I was one of them. And it's an imbalance of finding out and not sure to take that next step. So in that rites of passage, whether it be 4 days or 4 years, I say 4 years for me because I was hell on wheels for 4 years. But you begin to understand your womanhood and what goes through your body, all the changes, and being able to be proud of those things and not looking at yourself in a negative way, and understanding that. Take some time to be able to cleanse yourself and stay quiet during that time, which we call moon time, and that's that menstrual cycle. In those times, we want to be quiet. We want to be reminded of that cleansing, that water. That's why we're close to grandmother water. And that's part of our role too, and we'll get into that. But that's that cleansing. And we sit with those old ladies or those aunties, those sisters, and they teach us many different ways how to cook. I can cook good old deer meat, traditional food, no spectacular food, but those were my cookums that taught me that, So I like to clean moose nose, I can skin a moose, I can make dry meat, organic. And that was lots. Those two things that I was taught, that was good enough for me. And I feel really proud about that because I'm able to prepare now for feast ceremony, and that's our role as well in the lodges. We're in the back preparing our food, and to be able to learn how to sew with a needle and thread. And now we have the privilege of having a sewing machine, but to be able to make something, and that something for myself was a pair of moccasins. That's what my gookum had taught me very young, and reminded of how to make that, and slippers. Today now many things I can sew, and to be able to feel proud about that, of the things that you make. The other thing we begin to learn through rites of passage is how to respect one another, respect our other human being, respect the land and our language. I ask for forgiveness. I'm learning, but I want to thank our Mushum Ed here and my brother Bernard. That language is so important. If you get a chance, being able to connect with that language, speak your mother's tongue. And that's where the level I'm at is being that gookum, being that parent. I've had the opportunity to be able to raise my children the best way I knew how. And I'm a pretty awesome gookum now. Pretty proud of that, and I was given a second chance, and through that time, being honest with your children. It's really hard nowadays being able to listen to some of the things I've done, and today we call that intergenerational trauma. And when I sat with my kids as they become parents themselves, and wanted to pray with them, to be able to go to the lodge, and to be able to ask for forgiveness. But forgiveness comes from here first. Forgiving yourself, and to be able to show your children different. And that's what we all want, is to live that good life. So we continue to worry, we continue to pray for our children, and coming into ceremony together. I don't know where I would be without prayer, and without our medicines. And becoming that woman, I now know what my role is, and what my name, my spirit name means, and where I sit. And those are the things that I'm reminded of how I carry myself and what I can share. I don't make up things that I don't know. And if I don't know something, I'll go out there and ask, because it's my spirit that wants that. And today I'm able to gather medicines, and that's part of our role too. Many times I'll gather medicines for our ceremonial holders and elders and whoever needs it, to be able to share that way, to be able to share the little teachings that I know, so that they're passed down and not forgotten. Those are the things that our elders have told us, to no more to keep it to yourselves, because those are greater to be able to share with one another. And hopefully one day I'll be able to sit in that, to be able to grow old, have that white hair. I admire our elders as they humbly sit. They're always open to be able to sit with us and tell stories of history, language, to give us guidance. And they continue to nurture us all through those stages, and watch us and to allow us to live our life, because it's up to us to take care of our lives. So that's a little bit, but I want to acknowledge our old ladies at Ventura Traditional Healing Society, Kokum Doreen and Rose Wabaska, as well as Okamau, Cheryl Whiskey Jack. It's those individuals that we reach out to and continue to support, and just hi and Hanaskaman.
Very good. Hey, that's what that was. Very good. And did you say that we could use this? Can we use this in our society to teach our people that too? Hey, we could use that. When we have gatherings, we can teach our young people that. That was great. Both of you were great. Yes, that was good.
Closing song there, Bernard.
You got one?
Go on.
You can sing one.
Yeah, you can sing a blessing.
So before we go over there, I made one little slip up, but in our beliefs, in our culture, our Creator is kind and is forgiving. And I did not do this on purpose, but I got 2 tobacco ties here that I smudged, and I got to offer to Jeffrey for sharing his stories with us. Thank you. And the other one for Crystal. And with that, Crystal is going to sing us a closing song for today, for the wonderful teachings from our elder Ed LaValle. It's the first time I've met Ed and Jeffrey, and really love their stories.
Fellow Saskatchewanite, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, good. Which part of Saskatchewan?
Saskatoon. I was at it was a Saskatchewan Indian Federated College at that time. So that's where I
worked. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes, I worked at the
This was in
Indian
95.
Cultural College. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So with that, Crystal will end our day with a beautiful song, and I thank everybody that's here. I thank yourselves, you're beautiful people out there that are watching and learning the little bit of knowledge that we shared with you. We don't know everything, and as Crystal had said, we don't share stuff we don't know, because if we share stuff that we don't know about, we're hurting you, but most importantly, we're hurting the Creator. Because whenever we share stuff, this knowledge that we have comes from the Creator, and that Great Spirit is watching us. So we have to be honest with what we say. So with that,
Can I just share something for this weekend? There's a Sundance on the Muscatine at the Louisville Reserve. It's the first. I don't know if it's the first one. I know that in Saskatchewan they've been having Sundances. Mother's Reserve, Big River. It's we call it the Sundance capital of Canada. But yes, our Sundances are going strong. So this weekend is the Sundance Louisville Reserve.
So with that, I'd like to thank you all on behalf of the Edmonton Federation Community Leagues and Bentero Traditional Healing Society. We will close with our song from Crystal Arcan.
Sing the blessing song. Ask each and one of you give thanks today for a beautiful day and beautiful teachings that we share with each other, and give thanks for all the beautiful gifts that we continue to do and to awaken. Give thanks to Creator, Mother Earth, for allowing each and one of us to be able to be together in a good way. They had to learn off the older, the adults, the elders in the community, to know their surroundings when they go out, when they go hunting, when they go patrol their territory, to protect their camp. And as they're growing up, as I was saying, they would go on their fasting, to go on their I guess some would say a vision quest, but they go fasting for
these stories that are coming out from residential school of what happened to our people, the children, our future generations. That healing is taking place. But at that point in time, that role changed for us. Even here on this land that we're on, Musquatchie, Waskagan, Edmonton, when we had these forts come up from, what's the word can I use here? A lot of people say colonizers. When we met Europeans, that role changed when they started introducing, they took away that very important men's role. They put our children into residential school to get into schooling. That role, that powerful identity that we had changed. They put us into little land reserves. They took away our weapons. We had to have that reserve pass just to get off of the reserve. And it wasn't a whole bunch of us, it'd be like one or two. And there was a time frame attached to it. So if you're gone for like 2 days, that's all you were given. It's 2 days to go do whatever it was, maybe to trade with the neighboring, maybe a town or maybe another reserve to go trade and then to come back. Those roles that very important that identified a person, a male, the men, diminished. Then they brought in the alcohol, which is very prevalent still in this day, and the drugs. There's a lot of our roles were lost, especially the men. We were protectors of the family. We were protectors of the community. And once you're put onto a little piece of land, that role was gone. They take your weapons away. They take your identity away. They tried to take our culture away. Very detrimental things happen to the males. But at the same time, we did hang on to a lot of those important roles, a lot of the ceremonies. We have our elders here present today. We have our sun dances. We still have a lot of our chicken dances, horse dances, sweat lodges. And we have our males that run those. We also have the females, the partnership. We got to have that balance. And we have Crystal will be talking about the woman's role here to bring that balance that we just talked about today with our elder Ed and also Jeffrey and Sharon. To have that balance. A lot of our men out there right now are, and Jeffrey shared a story earlier on, and including myself, of being lost, of not knowing who we were. Because of these things that I talked about, I know I skipped a bunch. We could sit here for days and talk about all these detrimental effects that happen to the men. But we are still here. We are still learning our roles. A lot of us are doing like Jeffrey here are doing the best we can. are some gray areas that were lost because of what the churches, of what the governments took away from us or tried to take away from us, and the threats of jail. So that's a gray areas that we're talking about. Some of our ceremonies were not shared, I guess I'll put it that way. Whereas before it was always handed down, but now because of that threat, a lot of the people were protecting others, so they didn't really share and pass it on. But now, a lot of the elders out there, and then all these nations, right? They all have different teachings, but it's all the same. It all comes from our Creator. And that's what we got to give our thanks to each and every day. We still look after our families as best as we can with what we know. We still help one another. I've seen a lot of male people that would offer cigarettes, they'd offer food to other people. And that's how it was long ago. Our camps, we help one another for the safety, for the survival of our encampment, of the people. So with that, I will leave it at that. I will introduce Crystal Arcan, and she will share the woman's role. So I thank you all for listening, and take it away, Crystal.
Hey, Nanaskawan, Bernard, and Elder Ed and Jeffrey. It's a great honor to be able to come into the ceremony. We've been blessed here today, sitting on the land here, and coming into the lodge here. It's very fitting with the teachings that were shared today, and honoring Gakyo, all of us. My name is Sagasteo Bicynthia Suesqueo. And I share that my spirit name with you is, when I was given that name, my journey began. My given name is Crystal Arcan, and I want to acknowledge our partners. Being able to come this way, as I've learned to be able to listen to the stories that my brothers here have shared, my two-spirited, and sitting here on the land, it reminds me of all those teachings that start coming from my Gukum. She has now passed on, Mary, and I'm thinking of her, thinking of my mom, Bertha, and all my sisters, as there's many women that I've sat with, and it's my spirit is what has guided me through my lifetime, and continue to learn, and looking forward to, if Creator allows me to be able to share what little I've come across or have experienced as a woman, as a mother, as a Gukum, and as a sister. Those things that have touched my spirit, and I've taken many of those teachings that have fit with me. So acknowledging who you are and where you come from, to honor your aunties, your sisters, and your Gukums, because that's where it begins. Always going back there's all those traditions that we've shared amongst each other. And some may not feel good, and that's okay. And that's where, as a woman, as a man, as two-spirited. It's what feels good for us, and that's that spirit. I'm going to share a little bit of this ages and stages through life, and that's how I began to understand, because I had to go back to those things